listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and just like any other show, we have another special guest. We're going to talk to Amanda Chay. She is an author, entrepreneur, and lifelong health enthusiast. She's going to tell us everything about her story, but go to her website afterwards. It's amandachay.com. You learn everything about her articles, her blogs, a little bit about her, and also she has a book available that you can check out as well. And is available right now. The Girlfriend's Guide to Lupus, How to Control Your, diagnosis. Can't say on the radio, but you can definitely check it out on the website on amandachay.com. So how you doing, man? How you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much. How are you doing?
Man, doing great. So before we talk about your book, tell us a little bit about your health experience and what you had to go through that inspired you to share your story.
Sure. So I have something called lupus, which is an autoimmune disease where 1.5 million Americans have this and 90% are women. So this is when your immune system goes on attack mode and attacks healthy cells, tissues, and organs. So for me, I was diagnosed just a few years ago, but it takes most people between 5 to 7 years for a diagnosis. So what happened with me is that most likely 23 years ago when I became pregnant, it was a really, really tough pregnancy. And that's when lupus was turned on. And it took decades of me getting other diagnoses to finally get that lupus diagnosis when I was in my mid-40s. But in a turn of ironic events, that oldest daughter, that kid that was such a hard pregnancy for me, she's not a kid anymore, but she also has lupus. She was diagnosed just a few months after me.
When you finally got the diagnosis, did that kind of start getting your wheels turning that, you know what, I need to be vocal about this and help others who may be going through what I just, had to go through myself?
You would think so, but honestly, no. At first, it was all about me. I had to learn about the disease, even though I most likely knew I had it for a long time. It wasn't official. So when it came, it spent a lot of time of just like, okay, what does this mean for me? And then quite honestly, I felt like I was in survival mode of, okay, how do I deal with this? How do I handle it? Lupus was being really jerky to me, but I did turn the corner when I met a lot of other lupus people, and I saw the reality of what their life was in regards to mine. Lupus is kind of funny. It's like a snowflake. Everyone has their own version of it. So I only knew my own, but when I got to pick my head up and see other people that were suffering in their own ways, that's when I was like, okay, my health is, stable at the moment. I'm here. What can I do to help these women?
You are part of a lot of things, including United States, the University of North Carolina Lupus Stakeholder Advisory Board. When you are being part of these positions to help educate and advocate for health, how did those doors open up for you in the beginning?
Well, you got to throw your weight around to get those doors open sometimes, right? So I just really would go to my rheumatologist, or I would go to these nonprofit organizations, and I would say, I hadn't written the book yet, and I just said, like, what do you need? What can I do for you? Because I have, a few decades back being in healthcare, being in marketing and sales. So I knew that I was able to get a message out there. I knew that I could do something that was impactful. And so I just was like, whatever you need from me, you let me know. And that's when opportunities came up like, hey, we need some help here. Can you do this there? And I'm like, sure, bring me on. I've learned and still continue to learn, but, boundaries of saying what I will and will not do. And this was just an area where I was greatly open and willing to contribute what I had to others.
Let's get into that book now. The Girlfriend's Guide to Lupus. Tell us what was the starting point for you to start writing this project, and were you self-published or did you find a publisher to help you with this project?
Good question. So I began to write the book. It sounds very cliche. I was just walking down the street with my dog. I always knew I would write a book. And I had this idea of just suddenly like, oh my gosh, I should write a book for women. Because the reality was that lupus sucked for me, but I also had a lifelong, healthy habits that have sustained me. So I knew that if I could share those habits with women and they weren't going to be so conforming, like you have to wear this sweater and eat yogurt upside down while you do yoga in order to feel better, but I could make things easy and simple, that would be better for them and they would make, they would be healthier. So their lupus would be more manageable. But I'm a little odd. Sometimes I do things backwards. I never looked up how to write a book. I never figured out. The only thing I looked up was how many words need to go into a nonfiction book. And so I never looked at a publisher. I just thought, 1.5 million people and 90% of women. So 1.35 million women. This book probably isn't going to have this huge global impact. So let me just go ahead and do it myself. And that's where I went. I've always assumed I would be self-published, and I was.
Well, geez, man, you looking like you knew what you're doing because I see the reviews on Amazon, and it speaks for itself. That's pretty awesome.
Well, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Luckily, I had no idea one of the expense you give to write a book. That was quite shocking. I'm like, wait, how much? I have to spend how much? So that was good. I didn't know because I think maybe it would have deterred me. And the second thing, it was good that I didn't really know what to do was because I allowed myself to write how I wanted to write and not by how most people write. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I was reading reviews on, I was reading reviews online and a lot of people really connected to this. And one of the reviews, people mention your humor. And I feel like just the title of the book alone, it really opens your eyes. Like, let's really get into this.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, if you read it, you will find that although I do know what I'm talking about, I am quite honest and vulnerable. And it feels like at times I'm sharing like nudie pictures of myself because I feel so raw in the areas where I should have known better, but I didn't do well, or I should have listened to my body and I didn't, or there's a trip in Italy with my daughter, the one who has lupus, and I could have been more, caring to her and I wasn't. So I just tried to show people that it's okay to know what you're supposed to do and still screw up, that we have to have compassion for ourselves. We have to know that we're just a work in progress. And so that's really, that's what I gave with that. At times I think I'm hilarious only in my own mind, but, to be able to hear other people say that they found some humor in the book brings me joy. And, the book is sprinkled with many a cuss words because that's who I am. And so hopefully that resonates with them as well, but it's nothing so crazy they can't skip over if they don't want it.
Oh, cuss words are fine. It's words. So when
that's
you
right.
are given these, I would say these golden nuggets of information in your book, part of the book is you sharing with the reader to create a support group. Have people that you can lean on and support you during the process. Explain how you were able to find your own support group and what were some of the challenges, if any?
Oh, yeah, there's always challenges. Your support group doesn't have to be just your family. You can choose what family members you want. Like, not all of my family is in my support group. For me, I'm a very choosy chick. That means that people who are in my life are my choosing intentionally. And before they come into my life, I will often assess. It's kind of like a dating period where I'm like, because I only have so much energy and I need that energy to take care of my health. And I don't want to give away energy to any drama with anyone else, whether that be a friend or family. So I create my support group and I encourage people to do as well. If your best friend that used to, pee in the kiddie pool when you were in preschool, just because she's still in your life doesn't mean she needs to be in your support group. So that's, one of the things I tell people is to kind of do an inventory of who's there, who do you want there, And then you go from there. And I like to call it a support caucus, where you get like, imagine at your house where you have a big couch and you bring all your family and your friends in and you say, look, here's what I have. Here's how it's going to impact me. Here's what my future looks like. And here's what I need from you guys, how you can be there for me. Because there's a lot of unknowns with lupus. Lupus is an invisible disability, right? If you could see me, or if your listeners could see me, I probably look, somewhat normal, but we can't determine the care that we give to someone based on what we see externally. So even though we look okay inside, we are raging. And an invisible disability doesn't just pertain to lupus. If we think of things like most mental illnesses and cancer and seizures, all of these things fall under the idea of invisible disability. So that's something we want to remind our supporters as well.
Being able to tie things together, connect the dots. I mean, when you're from Ohio, I was right there in your bio. What would you say that you carry with you from your youth to now being able to share your story with the world? Or there's some characteristics where it's like you're not shy? Because I feel like you just come across like a comedian, smart, witty, straight to the point, no fluff type person.
Oh, yeah.
Did you have that when you were younger too?
I'm sure I was. Although I grew up in Cincinnati, I was a little bit, I was a shy kid for a while. And now I kind of hang out in both areas where I am definitely extroverted. Like tonight after we go, I'm going to go teach some yoga. And then I come home and I find myself quiet. So I'm learning to, like I talked about with the friends, I don't give away all of my energy. I try to learn to see what I want to give it to. But, growing up, I think I'm similar to where I am now. I've got lots of curiosity about life. And if something's there, I go and check it out. I've done, 10 plus different roles, and I'm going to be 10 more things in my life. And that's great. And I don't take any qualms about that. If something works for you, you keep it. If you want something else, you go get it. And maybe the other thing that keeps with me, I still have roots. So I say the word pop because pop is from Cincinnati, and it's not Coke or it's not soda. And I have a lot of loyalty. I'm still loyal to the Bengals. I have been. They've done better, but the last few decades, it was rough.
Man, tell me about it. I just saw my Detroit Lions the other day. My God.
Yeah.
Talking about, when you say that, I just be very careful. I love Detroit. So there you go. That's my disclaimer. But how I really feel, I have to say, I'm off air. But when it comes to mental health, man, like, does that play a role with this whole journey? Because you being a health advocate, were you in positions where you had to pay attention to your mental health a little bit more closer than normal?
Yes. Luckily, my master's is in counseling, which gave me a healthy respect for the idea of cultivating one's mental health. That doesn't mean it's any easier to deal with, but I do know that both medication and therapy are great resources. Independently, they might be harder, but together combined, they have a lot of power. So when I did some research and I learned that both depression and anxiety are greatly increased with people with lupus, whether that be because you have lupus or because you're dealing with lupus, it doesn't matter. In the end, the mental health struggles are very real. To be given a chronic incurable disease that's going to last you a lifetime, that alters what you want from both your body and your mind is really challenging. So I'm a big advocate of talking about it, doing a lot of self-help, reading what you can, talking to therapists, whatever you need to do, being in group therapy. I love some therapy out there. And in fact, one tip I would give you is that I found there's a chronic pain counselor. There's one, I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. There's a group here, but there's probably wherever the listeners live, they have chronic pain counselors as well. So the idea is we don't have to accept what we get from our mental health from lupus. We don't have to accept physically what our body gives us. We can begin to find ways that we deepen our own self-awareness and we begin to take control, not necessarily changing the winds, but just adjusting those sails as we go forward.
I like that point about taking control. By the way, listen, I'm Refocus Radio, talk to our guest, Amanda Chay. You can go to her website, amandachay.com, and grab her book on Amazon, The Girlfriend's Guide to Lupus. And also, going back to what I was saying about taking control. Sometimes people can feel helpless sometimes when it comes to talking to their primary doctor, not because they are too much afraid to speak, but they feel like they may not know enough to speak. For you, what was it like for you to take control of your whole health situation and speaking with your doctors and just be more confident?
I am very feisty. I am ruthless when it comes to my health because I've learned to be. That doesn't mean I haven't had rheumatologists that were downright poor rheumatologists, but at the time I couldn't find other rheumatologists. And then I've had great rheumatologists like I have now. So this just means that being the best advocate you can be means that you need to stand up for yourself. And if you don't understand something, your doctor's talking about your T cells or your lymphocytes, your neuroblasts, and you don't know what's going on, it's a simple question of, can you explain that to me? In the same regards, if you're feeling disrespected, you're feeling not heard, you're going through medical gaslighting, even though it may be uncomfortable, I always encourage people to speak their mind. And there is respect. I give respect to my physician and I expect respect in return. And I think it always happens that way because I have trust my physician. If I don't trust the physician, I'm going to find a new physician. And that's what I would tell people as well. But when you get to those times where you're not feeling heard or you're not feeling understood, you can bring that up with the physician. I'm not feeling like you're giving attention to what I'm talking about. I would like to tell you more about this, or what do you think about that? That doesn't always solve an answer. Sometimes the physician might not give you their time, and then you can find that second opinion, but at least addressing and standing up for yourself in these small circumstances allows you to feel a little bit taller. And as those, blocks go along your spine, you stand a little bit stronger going forward. The one thing I would tell people is that you should be aware there are both federal and state patient rights. For example, in North Carolina, it is our right when we go to a hospital to have someone who's a non-family member designated to come in and be in our hospital room. Not all states have this, but if you know that, then when they tell you, oh no, your boyfriend, your girlfriend can't come in, and you can say, no, it's my patient right, and you can bring them in as well.
See, that's good information to know. Were there any other resources that you found helpful with you as far as learning more about lupus, or just reading up on articles or books or anything, videos, anything?
Yes. Yes. I spent so much time researching, and it was great. What I learned, besides there are a lot of wonderful nonprofit organizations like Lupus Foundation, Kaleidoscope, Fighting Lupus, Lupus LA. What I have found is that I would read, which not everyone does, I would read clinical trials that would tell me one thing. Let's say this is not true, but let's say they tell you eat an apple a day and your lupus will be great. I learned to be very, very savvy consumer when I would read that article and I would figure out in that trial, wow, they only studied 9 men in Russia. That might not parlay that information to me. And so, it just really tells you that there's a lot of noise out there, right? Social media, TikTok, Instagram, everyone wants to get your attention. But that doesn't mean you need to listen. I talk about it in the book, how to be a wise consumer. And that's what I would consider people as well. I don't listen to these things anymore. I don't follow any of these, coffee enemas, plunge, cold plunge type of things. Because the reality is there's not one thing that's going to ever cure lupus nor anyone's health, right? You just getting in a cold bathtub isn't going to make you all better, but we need to be aware of what we do every single day, these habits that we have, and those greatly, greatly impact our life overall.
Once again, listen to Unveiling Radio, talking to our guest today, Amanda, and she has an amazing book that you need to get right now, The Girlfriend's Guide to Lupus. It is available right now on Amazon, but you also check out her blogs and her articles and more information about her on her website, amandachay.com. So we got about 5 minutes left. When you look at the opportunity to help women, why is it important for women who may be going through this to reach out to other women and just talk things through? Because like it says in your book, girlfriends, right? Having fun and talking, but you're also learning and changing your life for the better.
Yeah. When I was diagnosed, even though I thought I had lupus for so long, but when I was I got the diagnosis. Of course, I went home and Googled, and then the reality really hit in because I didn't know anyone with lupus. No one in my life, no family members. And so I would tell my family what I was up against, and they were like, oh, okay. Right. They didn't know how to best support me. They would say, we're here for you. We're going to do what you want. But I was really lonely. I was scared. I didn't know what my future was going to hold because I'd never seen anyone battle it. So that's really the idea that I wanted to put forth in the book. The girlfriend's guide would be, hey, you are diagnosed. You're my new friend. You're diagnosed with lupus. You're going to sit on the couch. I'm going to drink hot tea because, I don't appreciate wine yet. You can drink whatever you want. And I'm going to spill the beans on what you're up against, some of the challenges you're going to face. But in the end, we're going to really focus on the fact that you are not your lupus because you can be so much more. And that's really important to me.
You also have a video on your YouTube channel, My Lupus Story, that people can watch. It was about 7 minutes, almost 8 minutes. Is YouTube and all these platforms, out of all of them, what have you found has really helped you get your story out there? Not just quicker, but to as many people as possible.
It's a funny world, isn't it? Like you never really know how you impact people. Certainly people, we write reviews when we aren't happy often. So I'm grateful for all the people that have said nice things or have been positive. So I'm also happy to contribute. If someone likes to learn by reading, great. If someone wants to learn by video, great. I do love YouTube. It takes an amazing amount of time to create those videos and edit it. But it is a lot of fun. I'm open to all. I need to whittle it down. I'm not on Twitter and I just consume TikTok and don't really post it. So maybe that makes it a little better.
Yeah, I watch TikTok if I feel like laughing. And there's a lot of funny videos out there. Speaking of funny,
I know.
Where did you get your humor from? Because like I said earlier, you sound like you can be a stand-up comedian.
Yeah, I love it. Put me on SNL one day. I was laughing. This is so funny. You might not find it's funny. I'm a very big tea connoisseur. And yesterday at the house, I was laughing. My husband said to myself in my own, diabolical manner where I was like, I used to microwave tea water and put a tea bag in it. I'm so crazy. And because now I boil water to 175 degrees and I have my, special tea I got from somewhere else. I guess I've always found that humor is a good way to get through things. If we can laugh at ourselves, then people can find that they can laugh at themselves as well, right? It's like when I teach yoga, I try to tell them that the imperfect yoga, I sometimes forget poses and sometimes I skip the other side on some of these things. And I think that people like that because they begin to understand that when we show who we are and we show our flaws and we're okay with that, that gives people the freedom to accept themselves as well.
Yeah, because when I read on your website, your new lupus friend, at first I was like, that's interesting. And then when I keep reading, all the different content and stuff, I was like, man, she just has this cool personality, man. Like you when you look at, your marketing online, it's like, yeah, she just has this cool personality. Like not everyone can have that approachable, if you will, personality where it's like, yeah, I want to check out what this person's saying. Sometimes people can be a little bit too serious.
Yeah. I understand. I tried to be very honest and relatable, but also authentic to me, which is, it seems like an easy thing to do, but it's really kind of hard. Like how much do I show? How much do you understand? And so I just chose to show more than I may have done before. So I really take that to heart. It's important for me, for people to like Oprah said, to feel heard and understood, knowing that I understand the challenges they face.
Well, you make it look easy. Once again, man, talking to Amanda Chay. Go to her website, amandachay.com, and go get a copy of the book. It has a lot of great reviews. You can read it for yourself on Amazon, The Girlfriend's Guide to Lupus. Once again, Amanda, I want to thank you for your time and best wishes and everything you do.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.